Today, we're looking back at history to discover the most broken metas Apex Legends has ever experienced. But let's not just talk about it, let's dive in and show you. So for starters, this one's for you OG players that can go all the way back to the beginning of the game in Season 0, when the Wingman Peacekeeper combo was by far the best in the game. This Wingman had insanely fast fire rate, and you watch some of the best players in the world like Dizzy absolutely run through squads. This was by far the weapon of choice for great players and especially streamers, and you saw so many clips garner millions of views simply how one gun could wipe an entire squad. What made this meta even worse is when you combined it with the sheer strength that the Peacekeeper had. It did a crazy amount of damage, and on top of that, it was shotguns in general. Gold Mastiff from the care package could literally one shot, and Wraith had insta-Q at the time. So this was the birth of the game. Everyone was having so much fun, and while it was fun, it was most definitely broken. Next up on this list is Season 4 Revtain. There's no doubt that many noobs like myself had a lot of fun using Revtain, but if you never had to go against it, you probably wouldn't know how broken this really was. The new legend of that time, Revenant, was finally revealed. Respawn did a bait and switch with the tease legend Forge. Now this was a big exciting moment at the time, but the community quickly found out that placing Revenant's ult and Octane's jump pad was the most effective way to engage on a team with virtually no punishment. If you're new to the game, you may be confused. Just know that Revenant's abilities now are much different than what they were when he first was launched. Instead of going into Forge Shadow mode with extra health, Rev actually would have a free life, and so would all of his teammates. All they had to do was take the totem and be birthed into Shadow form, and once you died in Shadow form, you would spawn back at the totem, back to your old normal self. So an entire team having a free life, Octane jump padding into a situation, dealing damage just to go right back in when they respawn. Yeah, it was very clearly broken. So much to the point that even pro players started to look at it. But players were still learning the game on a basis level, and so good players could take better advantage of things like this. Hence why it was nerfed and it's no longer a thing. Next on this list was one that honestly has stayed around for a while and we recently said goodbye to. And that was Season 7 Horizon. Horizon was so good off the launch, but she never really got hard nerfed or nerfed away till just kind of recently. And even then, she's still very much so a part of the conversation. But when Season 7 launched with new legend Horizon alongside the new map Olympus, immediately a fan favorite among movement players with crazy outplay potential was most definitely Horizon. Mouse and keyboard players were thriving. Clearly one of the strongest legends in the game. Her Q, which was her tactical ability, had a faster speed to go upwards, and you could stay at the top of the queue for the entire duration and have 100% accuracy. So think about how good she has been for the last couple of years, and then imagining just doubling that at the launch that she had in Season 7. It wasn't really until players continuously got better at the game where we started to realize just how broken it was. Despite all of those nerfs, she was still considered broken by many of the community members until till here recently. Up next is arguably one of the most broken metas of all time, and that is Season 10 Seer meta. It's definitely not a secret that all the pros and content creators, streamers alike, know how bad Season 10 was when it comes to the Seer competitive play meta. Now, this wasn't necessarily a horrible thing when it came to the casual player base, but it definitely was at the higher ranks. Seer scan did 10 damage to enemies that were scanned, and it would also flashbang you. Scan also was almost instantaneous, meaning you could not dodge it at all. He was nerfed within a week of the season dropping. Even though he was nerfed, he would later make a return to the meta, thanks to his Watson pioneering the meta for ALGS. This legend and meta were often referred to as the most annoying meta in Apex history. What's crazy to think about is it never really seemed to be broken until one person got really good at it. There's possibly a very much so broken meta out there right now that you just haven't mastered yet and are waiting to discover. Obviously enough, shortly after his Watson pioneered for this, it seemed like all the pro players followed suit and it started to trickle down into the lower player base. What at one point was one singular individual trying to use it at a LAN event became all the pro players using it, became many ranked players using it, and then into the public casual player base. It was basically free information 100% of the time. And while we've seen some some crazy instances with legends like Bloodhound very much so being in the meta, there was never a time where it was comparable to as powerful as Seer was. Next up on this list was one that happened about 2 years ago, and ironically enough, we thought it wasn't going to happen just because of the launch trailer. This is season 15/16 Cat, Bang, and Bloodhound meta. And just for an honorable mention in this meta, let's mention Seer in there as well, because this was the start of the visual clutter meta / Digi era. Catalyst was the brand new legend added in season 15 alongside brand new map known as Broken Moon. The Catalyst wall alongside Bangalore smokes created the first true quote visual clutter meta. Now visual clutter's always been a thing, but it's never really been this bad, as over the next few seasons we would see Bangalore become a top pick in every game mode, including ALGS. Digital Threat Sight would also become a must use, as well as Bloodhound to counter this meta. Even so much so, many Apex pros contribute Team the Dojo not winning one of the LAN events, all because enemy forgot it was quote Digi Day. When the digital threat was inside of the replicator, it was such a game changer. For many of us casual players, we may just casually walk up to the replicator and like the site and decide to buy it. But for pro players, it was a must. You have to rotate to this. You have to grab this item. It's going to allow us to win the game. And the idea was that we'll purposely clutter everyone's screen with smoke and walls and you can't see anything, and we'll just look through the smoke with the digital threat and with Bloodhound. It wasn't just that the Legends abilities worked well, it was intentionally to clutter the screens. And the only way to combat that were to use digital threat. This has to be arguably one of the highest complaint rate eras of all time in Apex. Literally everyone was complaining about this visual clutter meta. And when I say everyone, I mean the pros. While it was definitely annoying, not many casual players actually understood the complexity behind these abilities, or combining them together, or using team communications to pair them up. So while those pick rates were really high for ALGS and high ranked players and a lot of the pros, it wasn't really a problem for public players. However, things got really annoying when people started using Seer ultimate abilities that would scan people inside of the dome even if they're behind catalyst walls. So you could innocently be behind a wall and think that you're safe because no one can see you, and then suddenly the opponent just had wall hacks and could see everywhere you're moving and track you even behind the catalyst wall. It's safe to say not many people complained when this meta went away. And lastly, for one of the most broken metas that we've had as of recent was just last year, season 19, with the new Revenant / Conduit ranked meta. The new Revenant ult plus the Conduit tactical ability would make Revenant have upwards of 300 health that could regenerate. This combo would become a must pick in the higher levels of ranked play, as top teams would just ape fights to clear the lobby as quick as possible. R99 was also the best gun in the game at the time, and being able to one clip was clearly a controller dominant meta. It seems to be a reoccurring theme that most players don't like free health. For instance, Revenant seems to be at the core of these issues with Forged Shadows and his Revtane meta back in season 4. I mean, who wouldn't hate having to kill someone twice? Out of all the most broken things in Apex, what would you say is the most broken in your mind? What broken metas did we miss in this video today? There are many honorable mentions out there in my mind. I'm interested to see your thoughts down below. Like and subscribe to the channel for more Apex Legends content. Until the next time, we'll see you all later, Gators.